because most markets, there is little valuable, actual in mass education done in advance of engagement with the brand. Meaning that, hey, I want to go, I need to get my teeth cleaned. I moved to a new city. Which dentist should I pick? Your decision making almost always is relegated to who's closest to me. And if it's close, it's location, then you're like, who has the coolest yellow page ad? Or who can I find the easiest on Google Places to modernize this? When I search it, who's number 1, 2, or 3, that's who I'm going to click, right? You may get the best dentist in town, or you may get the guy that got a D- at dental school who's going to hack your mouth to bits.
This is going to be amazing. You got a lot of people on this call today.
I think the biggest miss that people make in terms of selling it.
And that's what a good marketing message, good branding does.
How does somebody do something big in a very short period of time?
The title is Everything Lawyers and Business Owners that are similar to lawyers need to know about webinars to grow their business. And
right.
You are the guy, and I'm going to be taking notes myself. So
all right,
take it away.
First of all, if I could teach you everything you needed to know in 15 minutes, I would be the world's first trillionaire. I have thousands and thousands of hours of experience with webinars, probably some of the biggest results in my industry, definitely the biggest results. I'm the most well known for it, at least, which is ironic because I have not tried to cultivate a reputation as being a webinar guru or teaching webinars, but just as a result of really pioneering and leading the way over the last 13 years with webinars, I've earned the reputation, I guess. So if I could show you the most important thing based on where I think you are as an audience that would help you utilize webinars, what would that be? That's really the focus of what we're going to talk about here today. And we're on the platform Zoom, right? So I am the only marketer to actually have consulted with Zoom on webinars. They brought me in February to train their users on webinar utilization. And then they went IPO'd in April and they were worth $22 billion. So I'm just saying cause and effect. You bring me in, 2 months later, you're worth 22. I'm kidding, right? But I have helped clients from all varieties. The point I'm bringing this up to you is almost everybody I talk to, they neglect some of the most basic, obvious, lowest hanging fruit opportunities with the webinars because they kind of get up in the excitement and the thrill of seeing like a webinar that is perfection, quote unquote perfection, right? Like there are some webinars where I've spent several hundred hours optimizing, tweaking, improving, reiterating. And when there's millions of dollars on the line, that would make sense. But the first webinar I ever did was a mind map. I didn't know how to use PowerPoint. I didn't know how to use Keynote. We certainly didn't have full motion video capabilities back then. I shared my screen. I had a mind map with 0 graphics on them. They were just nodes. Like, here are the 5 things you need to know at a high level. Now, each of these 5 things have 4 to 6 to 7 to 8 supporting components of it. And it was literally just education spoken and shown the words of, period. 2008, used an application called FreeMind and it was free. See, here's the deal. The webinar structure matters less than the message that you're presenting on the webinar and who you're presenting it to. That's what matters the most. Now, back then, we did everything live because we had no other option. There was no automation or there was no fancy replay technology. We just like, hey, let's put 20 people on a webinar and let's see if we can help them understand something they couldn't understand before. And if we do that, that's a good use of time. I mean, we're not talking very strategically like, all right, how do we agitate a desire and then how do we anchor it and amplify it to a service or a product that we can sell and then use all sorts of black belt persuasive technology in order to make that happen, right? It was just, can we be useful to a small group of people because it sure beats doing it one-to-one. And then if we can be useful and helpful to them in a way where they're like, whoa, I like that. That was awesome. That was good. If we can foster goodwill, it tends to, regardless of strategy, come back to us because most markets, there is little valuable, actual in mass education done in advance of engagement with the brand. meaning that, hey, I want to go and I need to get my teeth cleaned. I moved to a new city. Which dentist should I pick? Your decision making almost always is relegated to who's closest to me. And if it's close, it's location, then you're like, who has the coolest yellow page ad? Or who can I find the easiest on Google Places to modernize this? When I search it, who's number 1, 2, or 3? That's who I'm going to click, right? You may get the best dentist in town, or you may get the guy that got a D- at dental school who's going to hack your mouth to bits. I don't know, right? But there was no pre-educational content that is consumable and engaging to a potential prospect or a lead that would help them discern who they would go to. Because everybody would travel an extra 10 miles if they had the dentist that was the best dentist for them. But it's a very bad position to be in when your only advantage to the consumer is proximity. I mean, come on, right? If you haven't been disrupted yet, just wait a little while longer and you will be disrupted. I mean, that's the nature of business. And you do nobody a favor if you're the best, but don't demonstrate it. So many of you very well have clients who you would help better than anybody else, but it's unknown to them, and you run the risk of them getting second-tier service when you could be getting paid and you could be giving them first-class service. So that's the premise of the webinar. Now, you can do the same thing I just described in many different facets. You could do it with YouTube videos. You could do it with articles. You can do it with fill in the blank, right? It's like whatever the cool new thing that pops up that everybody flocks to from social media, you could do it with that. And you should, time permitting and resource allocating allowables, you should do it with all of those things. But if you only had to choose one, I think, especially in professional services, it would be the webinar. That is my opinion, because I feel that the webinar is perceived by the customer to be better than a YouTube video for whatever reason. Even if it's a recording of a webinar, it feels different than a YouTube video simply because at one point in time, it was done live, interactive. It wasn't scripted. It was heart-to-heart, nose-to-nose communication with an audience, okay? Perception is reality in the marketplace. So whatever reason, webinars have a higher perceived value. Now, if you actually do them live, which can be difficult, trust me, it may not even be where you want to start, then you even have a better perceived value, because nobody wants to watch the recording of the Super Bowl the Tuesday after it happened. And that's a limitation of other type of media. They want to experience it in real time. That's what they want. So if you can do a live webinar, great. Now here's the challenge. When I do any training like this, Bill, every audience has an excuse or a reason that it ready-made won't work for them. So if I had to guess with lawyers and attorneys, it's not really a guess. I already know the answer. I haven't looked at the chat, by the way. It is, well, what about confidentiality issues? So let me give you a little problem-solving strategic advice, if I could be so bold. We can either say, here's my limitation. I guess I can't move forward because this hamstrings me. That is an option. And a lot of people choose that option. Or we can say, all right, understanding that this is an issue, how do we adjust the information we hear to move forward with it anyway? So with a little bit of thinking, you can turn that disadvantage, supposed disadvantage, into one of your greatest advantages. You now have a perfect reason why for people to contact you personally. You can say, listen, I can only talk general advice here. I can't talk sensitive information because that requires confidentiality. So if you need something more specialized, contact me. You, my friends, have the greatest reason why somebody should do business with you right there in front of you, and you think it's the biggest disadvantage stopping you from being successful. And I often see that's the case in the markets that I play in, is what that hurdle is that everybody's scared to jump over. The people that figure that out, they learn to build the right muscles so they can jump higher, and then they crush the marketplace. It's just a fact of nature. It is a nuance that you have to consider and factor into your approach that is unique to your industry, that is not often an issue for other industries, right? Including mine. In fact, my clients want me to talk about them because it's advertising for them. So I am not callous to your challenge, but I'm also not willing to allow you to have that excuse prevent you from being successful.